Rev up your engines!
I can't help but listen to the nonsense and laugh that media puts out. U.S. News says only one small SUV is reliable, and it's a BMW, according to them. At the very top of 89 out of 100 of their small SUVs is a BMW X4. Well, this just shows you that money is changing hands somewhere to rate these BMWs as great vehicles, because I'm a mechanic. Those are one of the most unreliable, biggest money pits you can possibly buy. The BMW X Series have always been that way. I met doctors, lawyers who had them, and they said, we hate them. We're spending too much money on these. Then they go get a Lexus or an Acura, and they're real happy with them, right? The gall that U.S. News has to say that that's the best SUV. Here's part of the article. The interior showcases a sharper, modernized dashboard. How about a vehicle doesn't fall apart and turn into an endless money pit? They didn't even talk about that, right? And hilarious enough, Consumer Reports, they didn't even put them on their list of good vehicles to buy. They documented 24 recalls over the last 4 model years of these things, right? Even the Consumer Reports, they're not saying jump to them. They're kind of like, no, you kind of stay away from these, right? But U.S. News, no, it's the best SUV out there. You can't believe the crap that you read from these people. They're not mechanics. Obviously, something is amiss here, because it'd be one thing, okay, if they're talking about Toyota, Honda, saying this one's 1, this one's 2. But to pick the biggest money pit out there and saying it's the best one, it to me is absolutely hilarious. But on the other hand, it's kind of sad, because some people might read that and think, okay, that's real. They'll go buy one of these things and end up buying one of these BMW endless money pits because U.S. News says this is the best thing since sliced bread. Hey, be forewarned. Watch out whose information you listen to, because a lot of it is just a load of crap. Well, Tesla's deliveries are starting to slow down, and interesting enough, now they have more of them than they can sell. Now, of course, Tesla tries to blame it on logistical problems they're having delivering them, right? But the real problem is demand. People don't want to buy them anymore. One of the stock analysts says, and I quote, "Many investors underestimate the magnitude of the demand challenges Tesla is facing." Demand challenges. That means people aren't buying his cars. I'd say, well, nobody's buying their cars. The stock's going to go down. Well, no, they have demand challenges, right? It's like you don't buy a used car anymore. You're buying a pre-owned car, right? Well, what do they say? You can put lipstick on a pig, but it's still a pig. Demand challenging, yeah, because nobody's buying them. People are realizing they're not well-made cars. They cost too much money. And when it's cold outside, electric cars don't work as well. They're harder to charge up. Then they say, well, you got to precondition it. Who wants to precondition their car before they go for a drive? You turn the key, away you go. No, well, you got to precondition it if you're going on a long trip, right? Come on. Nobody's going to accept this crap in the long run. And now it's starting to come home to roost. And the analysts say, well, they're having a problem with demand. Yeah, in other words, people don't want to buy the stupid things. Now they're lowering the price. They gave $7,500 discount on certain models, right? Like rearranging the deck on a ship as it's sinking. It's going to come to a point where people realize this fantasy evaluation of Tesla is just total fantasy. And yet Elon says, this is going to be the richest company in the world still in the future. Don't worry, it's going to be the biggest deal. No, it isn't. It's a bunch of hype and hot air. And the hot air is starting to escape, and the hot air balloon is starting to settle down to the earth. And eventually it will deflate, just like all the other ones do. And then, of course, Elon's saying, well, I'm hinting at a cheaper vehicle that we can sell more because it will cost less. It'll be smaller. Should have started that out in the first place. Start with small electric cars, inner city stuff. That makes sense. Not start out with big ones that cost a fortune, that have problems going long distances and getting recharged. Start small, make big. Don't start big and make small. It just doesn't make any sense to go that route. And now, well, yeah, we're going to make smaller, cheaper ones too. Yeah. Guess what? It's going to be too late. By the time he makes one of those, like a Cybertruck, we're going to make the Cybertruck next year. No Cybertrucks are out. By the time he makes a small, cheap vehicle, the Chinese will be selling them over here, and they'll never be able to compete with them. David J.N. says, should I change my coolant? I got a 2021 RAV4 Prime with 94,000 miles. Toyota says to change it at 100,000 miles. Is it necessary? Thanks, David. No. Because you put that on in like a year and a half, right? That Toyota coolant is good for at least 10 years. Some of them are good for 15 years. I would not, with that mileage, you put it on so fast. It's time that degrades it mainly, and mileage to some extent, but you put it on so fast. Gotta be highway driving, right? Highway driving, the wear in your engine is equivalent to about 1/10 of stop and go city driving. I mean, you're putting so many miles on it. Maybe if you get 200-300 100,000 miles in another year or two, I'd change it then. But it's more the time than the mileage in your case, because you're wrapping those miles on the highway and it doesn't wear the engine that much. Now, let's say you had one that had 94,000 miles and it was 10 years old. Sure, change it then, but you don't need to change it now. They just want to sell you stuff. Roger Zan says, do I have a failing fuel pump on my Chevy Silverado? I got an 07 Silverado, 195,000 miles. I put a scanner in and it picks up codes P2635, P2534. Is this an early indication of failing fuel pump, or could it be something else? It runs fine, the engine cranks over. It probably means your fuel pump is on the way out. Hey, let's face it, it's a 16-year-old Silverado with 195,000 miles. Rarely do the fuel pumps last that long. I would say get a new OEM factory pump, put it in now, so you don't get stranded somewhere. Last thing you want is a fuel pump going out. When they start tripping those codes like that, it's usually that the pump is starting to where the computers can analyze things at a really in-depth level. And maybe it won't break till next year. But, hey, why take a chance being stranded in the middle of nowhere? You're going to pay $200 or more to tow it. Then you might have towed to some rip-off garage that's going to rip you off. Change it now so you won't have to worry about it in the future. That's what I do. And I would use an OEM factory one. Don't get those cheap Chinese crap that they sell at the discount auto parts stores. They're not worth it. You can put one of those in. It might not last a week. It might not even work. But with that mileage and that age, yes, I would definitely change it now so you don't get stranded somewhere. Aaron says, my blower resistor keeps blowing. I got an 06 Ford Ranger. I've replaced the blower motor resistor several times. It works for a while, causing it only to work on high setting. I have also replaced the harness, but I haven't done anything with the blower motor. All right, replace the blower motor. That's the logical thing. First, it goes through the blower resistor, decides what speed to run the fan at, right? And if it keeps blowing it, either your wiring harness isn't good and it's building up too much resistance, which will keep blowing it, right? Or the motor's going out. Well, you replace the wiring harness, so replace the blower motor now. Normally, if you do have a bad wiring harness, Chevys have bad wiring harnesses all the time. And their blower motors, I see them melt all the time. I don't see that many Fords go out. In that case, after the next one blew, I would have replaced the resistor and the blower motor. If you're going to work on those things, my advice is change them in pairs. Because if one's going, generally, it means the other one is either gone or it's weak or it's damaged the other one. Replace the blower motor resistors and the blower motors together at the same time. Then you don't have to worry about, well, one might have damaged the other, and then you replace one, but then the other one was damaged from the bad one, and it's just like an endless circle of your replacing parts. Replace the blower motors and the resistors at the same time, you'll be better off. Nathan says, I got a 2014 Nissan Frontier, 145,000 miles. How do I fix a trouble code P0448? After I drove through some bushes last spring, check engine light came on. Small evap leak. Comes on, it goes off. A lot of times it's a bad gas cap, right? But in your case, I doubt it. Because you said it happened after you went through some small bushes. I mean, it is a four-wheel drive vehicle. You took it off-road, right? There's all kinds of lines in the undercarriage for the evap system. Keeps gas vapor from evaporating into the atmosphere, so it goes back into your car and either burns it or goes through the evap canister, which filters with charcoal out the hydrocarbons, and the air comes out that doesn't have gasoline fumes in it. Somehow you probably knocked a hole in one of the lines or got one loose under the vehicle. So follow all the evap that go from under the gas cap at the top of the filler. Follow them all around. You'll probably find one of the pieces is broken off or got cracked, and you need to replace it. It isn't going to affect the running of it because it's a small evap leak. But after you went over the brush and it did it, you probably knocked something underneath off. So follow it really closely. And if you don't know which lines go where, just Google it and say where are the evap lines, and you can see pictures online of where the evap lines, and then just follow them and see what came off. Well, it looks like robotic boats are going to come to fruition before self-driving cars. In Sweden, they got offshore wind farms. Well, they got to check them all the time underwater using radar and sonar and stuff, because if they get little holes dug by the currents, it can knock the whole things over or break the cables. They bury them, but then the currents can get rid of them. So they got to check that all the time. Swedish companies now using robotic boats. Instead of having to pay people in giant boats to go around to check it, they're using robotic boats to do it. Now, at least to me, that makes more sense. If you have a robotic car, right, it's driving itself down the road, it's got to deal with all that traffic, all those people. Let's face it, offshore Sweden, there's probably not that much traffic on the ocean. Certainly not bumper to bumper, right? Robotic boats are a much better idea than robotic cars, because you're dealing with much less traffic at much slower speeds, too. boats don't go all that fast. You have boats going 90 miles an hour, right? They're going slower, easier to predict what's going to happen in the future. So maybe there'll be self-driving boats long before there are self-driving cars, if there ever are really self-driving cars that aren't just in their own circuit like a train where no one else can go there. Like I say, that would work, but it would cost a fortune to build them, where the ocean is already there and it's not that crowded. So having robotic boats is probably a better idea than robotic cars. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.